And welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. It is time for us to have our weekly conversation with head coach. You're going to always be head coach to me, Coach Heist Northern. How you doing today, my man?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I made it back home. I actually had a chance to go to Southern's homecoming over the weekend, and I tell you what, man, it was a pleasure to be back. You know, being in coaching, I didn't get a chance to enjoy the things that most alumni get to do. So I was grateful to be back at home for a minute. Had a chance to see my dad. You know, quite a few people, like say some of my teammates that I hadn't seen in 30 years, pretty much. So I was glad. Then the thing about it, we sort of laugh a little bit. Depends on where I am. My name is pronounced differently. So when I go to my grandmother's house, everybody, or most of the people over there, they call me Hosh, like Hosh. That's the way my mama pronounced my name. Okay. Then when I go to the neighborhood that I grew up in, most people call me Heist. You know, very few people call me by my whole first name. So I get the Heist. Then I get on campus, and some people they call me Hyde, because that's the way my brother started pronouncing my name, like High. So it depends on where I am. I get different variations of my name, and I can pretty much tell where people know me from based on how they pronounce my name. The other thing is, you know, my dad was a little league football coach, and he coached baseball sometimes in the neighborhood. So when my dad and I are together, and people say Coach Northern, it's both of us looking to see who are they talking about. So it's, you know, it's all those different things. But man, I tell you what, I had a good time, you know, seeing people that I hadn't seen in a while. The only thing, man, I don't know if you heard about, you know, Sean Wallace, who's a former Black College All-American, Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. My teammate, I was actually his backup for a couple of years, has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I fortunately had a chance to see him. I was able to get down on the field before the game, you know, and just get a brother a hug. And, you know, they got to go for him and all that type of stuff. But, you know, like say, just having a chance to see that guy and embrace him was breathtaking for me, because of, you know, sort of what that guy did for me. You know, he taught me a whole lot about football. And the thing about it, he never really called me, when we talk, he never really calls me by my name. He calls me brother. And that means a lot to me, for a guy that, like I say, helped me sort of learn a lot about football, being his backup, you know, living in the dorm together, just all those types of things. So it was good having the chance to see him again as well. And he's on the coaching staff or something. So, like I say, it was just good having the chance to be back at home.
Right. Well, do you have the contact information on how we could support his GoFundMe account?
Yeah, I will send it to you. So I had a chance to talk to Mr. Ken Richard, who has the HBCU Sports Forum. So he put something. I think they're going to do something else. I had a chance to talk to some other people on campus. You know, my wife and I have a foundation. The Southern University System Foundation is doing something. His wife, family has started something as well. So it's a whole lot going on. And I sort of hate that we missed the chance, because it was homecoming. We didn't do something at the game, but come to find out, he had only told the team about his diagnosis that morning of the game. So, you know, it probably would have been rushed to try to get it. But, you know, like I say, that guy deserves everything that he gets, all the help that he can get in this time of need, because he has done a lot for that university. And like I say, being back on the coaching staff, I know that meant a lot to him. And he came to the game on Saturday, but a lot of times he sort of spends more time at the hospital than he does in the office and at home.
I do understand. It just goes to back to what we've always clarified, Coach. Yeah, we talk about wins and losses each and every week, but it's so much deeper than the actual wins and losses. You build bonds that last a lifetime. One of my teammates was the best man at my wedding, and I know how that thing goes, man. And it's something that if you hadn't been in those trenches, you really don't know what what's so special about these guys. And yes, it's they say icing on the cake if you can lift up a championship trophy, but so many champions that go unnoticed, and not because they won a loss, but because they won and lost in life. They won whether they graduated, being productive people in their communities and being solid brothers, husbands, fathers, and all these things. So we're going to definitely have them lifted in prayer. And before we get further along the way, sir, could you officially let me and the listeners know how to properly enunciate your name?
I tell you, I tell people this: I'll accept Heist. That's I guess my official name. And like I say, when I go home, the only people that call me by my whole first name are people in the media that's been knowing me since I was in high school per se, and a few people that I went to elementary school with. But it's like once I get past the middle school stage, everything changed. But I'll accept Heist, and I would actually tell people this is what I will accept, because actually when I was in middle school, I went to a magnet school that was in the hood, but it still had a lot of white people that went there. So, it had some teachers that really didn't want the hood at their school. And I had a teacher that would pronounce my name wrong, and I thought she did it wrong on purpose all the time. So lo and behold, she calls my name, and she basically says like Hiroshima. And I said, woman, I'm in 7th grade, Mike. Woman, that's not my damn name. And she say, well, whatever your name is, you go to the damn office. So, and I didn't even get in trouble for it with my parents. Now, normally my mama would have came up there and probably whooped me at the school because she was an educator herself. But, like I say, that the way people pronounce your name, it means something to me. So, but I like to say, I'll accept and I prefer Heist moving forward, for most people.
Okay, I know that, but you're making me laugh, man, because when we first met, you was telling me your government name. I was fumbling and stuff. You said, man, just call me Heist. I say so, but I just want to hear how it's supposed to sound, if you don't mind.
So I'm gonna say it like this: when my mom called my name, she calls me Hashima. That's the way she pronounced it, and I'll go with. That's the correct pronunciation. Now, how she got that out of the spelling, I don't know. But like I say, I go by Heist now.
Okay, then. Well, Coach Northern is gonna be.
Hey, and even you know what? Even when I introduce myself to people, sometimes they think I'm saying Ice, like I'm trying to be a nickname. Like, no, it's Heist. But I tell people, everybody call me Coach Northern. All my neighbors. They just say coach, and they all feel like they could talk to me because everybody got a question about, football or baseball or, what you think the Ag is going to do and all that. But, I'll accept Coach Northern or Heist for the most part.
Hey, Coach, we do not allow profanity on this program. When you said the word Aggies, or were you talking about Southern? Or were you talking about, no, you talking about those Aggies up the road, right?
But the ones up the road, all my neighbors, most of my neighbors, quite a few of them went to school up the road. But
this is family programming, sir. We don't use that kind of profound language on this.
Well, I apologize.
Oh man! And speaking of profound language, the Panthers got baptized this past weekend, man.
Hey man, I don't know what it is, but them Christians must got something against the Panthers, man. Abilene Christians, Houston Christians. It must be something going on with them Christians and the Panthers, man. But I tell you what, I had a chance to watch the game. So I got back in town Sunday, and I watched it not from a fan's perspective, but I was actually going back through the plays and watching the plays multiple times to see, okay, what is going on this play? Why didn't they have success? Why did HCU have success? All those types of things. But, I looked at it from a coach's perspective, and I just see sometimes, to be honest with you, I know what those guys are being taught. But and they just not doing it sometimes for whatever. I don't know if it's a trust factor with the players, a trust factor with the coaches. You know, some guys playing a little bit scared. But like I say, when I'm looking at the film of the game, I'm like, man, I know coach is teaching this guy, this is your run gap, and a guy is just running up somebody else's back, and the ball is going right through his gap. And then you'll have people that are saying, well, it's the coaching. Well, I would say yes, it is, because sometimes, you know, it's a fine line between trying to be a good coach, and sometimes you have to be borderline psychotic for some of those guys to believe what you're saying. Right, and then, you know, some of it is, you know, you might just have to change some personnel, because one of the plays that I'm speaking of, the guy made the same exact mistake in the Grambling game that he made in the HCU game. So, you know, that lets me know that it's something going on either with that guy or with that kid, or between him and the coaches or whatever. But, you know, it's just one of those things that make you say, man, goodness gracious, what really is going on? It's not and in my opinion, it's different if you're making physical mistakes and just missing tackles, but in my opinion, that's a mental mistake. And, you know, some things may have to be simplified. So one thing I got from my brother, he was like, man, sometimes you have to coach like you're a special ed teacher, and you have to make guys do some things. Like he said, what my brother would do, especially if he had young players, he made them point at their responsibility and point at what you should be looking at. So, and he would tell them, look, if we go to this film on Sunday or Monday and I don't see you pointing, I'm going to dock your playing time. So he, you know, we had this philosophy. Players understand pain and they understand playing time. So,
well, you know, when you say that, and some people that might hear this, because we're so sensitive these days. I'm like, well, what do you mean? It's not saying that a player does not have the capability of learning. It's just that these guys, sometimes you have to simplify it so they don't overthink. Because in football in particular, especially on the defensive side of things, it's about reaction. And you're supposed to know you're supposed to go be explosive as you can. And a lot of people think that the down lineman's initial deal is to run full steam ahead. It's really to fill the gaps and let the linebackers do the heavy lifting when it comes to the tackling. So when you say, you remind me of an old teammate of mine, dude was about 6'4" and had never really played football organized. And so they had him at defensive end. And I'm talking about, man, this dude was just bone crusher. And I don't want to call his name out because someone might be embarrassed or whatever. And they would tell him, they say, hey, where you supposed to be at when we call this particular play? He point where he's supposed to be. He said, that's all we need you to remember. Don't worry about nothing else. He said, and who you supposed to hit? He said, I'm supposed to hit the quarterback. He said, don't try to hit nobody else. That's your job all day long. And he did it to perfection, Coach. So I know exactly what you're saying when we talk about simplifying these things. But to be quite honest with you, it took me back to this. To me, this loss was worse than the SMU loss as far as the overall dominance on the field. You kind of anticipate that dealing with a Power 5 program. But to be quite honest with you, they, in my opinion, showed me more fight and determination in that SMU game than in this game against HCU. And all I can do is say, hey, it was not a conference game. Thank goodness for that. And all you can do is don't throw away the tape. Study that tape. Learn from it. Don't let it beat you twice. You got a bye week to rectify these things. And you better be ready, because your next time you hit that gridiron is going to be in Tallahassee, Florida, at a homecoming for FAMU, who, by the way, is going to be in town this week.
Yeah. So you know, going back to what you were saying about the SMU versus HCU. So one of the things that happens, and it's a lot of it has to deal with mentality. So just say, for instance, if you're going to fight a guy that a lot of people thinking, hey, man, you better be careful when this dude got some hands, as they used to say. So you're gonna go into that fight with a different mindset than if somebody say, hey, man, this dude got knocked out his last fight. The last couple fights this dude had, man, he got beat up real bad. He got a black eye and all that. So it's a different mentality, no matter what the coaches say when you're going into battle. And I think sometimes, Houston Christian had been struggling. I saw one of their games. My best friend's son plays a wide receiver at Houston Christian. So I watch some of their games just to see, did he play or, all that type of stuff. But it's the mentality that no matter what the coaches say, the players don't have their own mindset. So I'm thinking SMU, they came in there with a more, hey, man, we got to be ready. And the Houston Christian was, we think if we play our game, we can beat them. And I don't think they just came in there with the right mindset. Then, Houston Christian got off to a good start, and Prairie View never did get back into the rhythm. They didn't run the ball. And then what Houston Christian started doing on obvious passing downs, they started dropping 8 to 9 people and made it where all they could really do is throw check downs, and that's not conducive to trying to move the ball down the field. They just couldn't get anything going. But I thought Prairie View was going to be able to run the ball better, but, we just didn't have any good fortune trying to run the ball. And then, like I say, you coming back with Coach Simmons, who has things rolling over there. And I think playing at their homecoming, he is going to try to show the Florida A&M faithful that we are, even though they still winning, we are better than what we've been showing. And I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. I played against Florida A&M for their homecoming, and I tell you what, it's one of the best scenes that you can see in black college football.
No doubt about it. Now, the thing that concerns me, Coach, and it's not necessarily the actual gameplay, I hope that these guys do not allow that atmosphere and, let's be honest, that Florida flavor with that smack talking, get these guys into that personal attack and lose their focus and cause even more detriment to the team.
Yeah, so like I say, I watched the game. I think Prairie View had 4 personal fouls, may have actually been 5, but some of them could be borderline ticky-tacky, and then you can see things where as a Prairie View fan, you think, man, they obviously pushed our guy, but like they say, the second guy always gets caught.
Right.
And that's gonna happen when you're playing against a predominantly white institute. My senior year of high school, I played for a white head coach at a mostly, I would say, we had 60 guys on the team, 55 were black. And he would tell us going into games where we were playing certain schools, like, look, guys, this is gonna happen. They're gonna call you the N-word. They're gonna try to spit on you. They're gonna try to do stuff under the pile, and they're gonna get away with it. So that going into the game. So the best thing for us to do is go in there, put it on them early, and then he would almost say, like, the referees, they going to get tired of trying to teach once they see that we can call back a play, but ain't nothing we can do to help these guys win this football game. So it's a different mentality that you have to have when you're going to somebody else's house and you're using their conference referee. So you have to keep that in mind when you're going somewhere else. Now, like you say, them Florida dudes gonna talk out the yin yang. That's just the way. That's just the way they built. They gonna talk. Like you say, they be walking around with a black eye and nose blooded, but they still gonna talk noise. That's just Florida guys. And it was always a Florida versus Texas thing. And I think that's one of the things that we have to be careful of. We being Prairie View going into that game, not letting your emotions take over to where you hurting your team. And like I say, you could punch somebody in the face. If they got a helmet on, you ain't hurting them no way. So what are you punching them for? So, what are you pushing for? That's not going to hurt anybody.
Right. I guess it's just the natural instinct to shove and swing at somebody when you got hit to that level. But we hope and pray that cooler heads prevail. Yeah. And you said something, Coach, it made me go back for a minute. all three of our non-conference games were Christian schools.
Yeah, man. Like I say, you better leave the Christians alone. Hey, I'm gonna leave it at that. You better, we need to start scheduling some other schools, some non-denominational.
Oh, I know that's right. Well, look, it's an old song, "Get Right Church and Let's Go Home." Maybe we need to fast or something on those days before the game. But anyway, the Panthers, they got to go ahead and get over this and move forward. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even discuss it as much. I would say what I have to say, like that Saturday, whatever you meet on Sunday, and maybe one more time on Monday, and after that, I'm done. Let's move on and get regrouped and refocused on what's happening. Meanwhile, we had some rather interesting games over the weekend, man. And I want to hear how you see these things and break them down on what you were able to analyze and assist.
Well, I think the biggest one that most people, probably the biggest two, was Grambling and Jackson losing for their homecoming. Mm-hmm. I saw a little bit of the Grambling game with versus Alabama A&M. They couldn't stop the quarterback runs. And once again, like I said, I know Coach Thornton. I know what he's teaching those guys. And you can tell guys were not doing what they supposed to. Like almost soon as they would miss their key or miss a play, you see them like almost put their hands on their head like, man, I can't believe I made that mistake. So, and then Grambling's offense couldn't get going like it had been, going previously. Now, I didn't see any parts of the Jackson State game, but I know Alabama State was able to run the football a good little bit. I think they may have only completed like maybe 10 or 11 passes, but and the Davis kid from North Shore didn't play. I don't know if he's injured or just got pulled for lack of effectiveness. But Alabama State has a pretty good defense, and like they say, defense travels in a lot of instances where, and they've been winning a lot of close ball games. So I think that was the biggest surprise, that Jackson actually lost to Alabama State. But Alabama State, because they run the ball, they grind their clock down on you, and a defense can keep them in a lot of games. It sort of reminds me of when we were at Prairie View, like the 2007, 2008. It was a lot of 17, 14, 21, 20 games where it's going to be close. The defense can keep you in it as long as the offense pretty much don't throw a pick six or something like that. So, but I think that was the biggest surprise of the weekend. Actually, the Jackson lost. The Grambling game, you figured it might be close, but Grambling was going to eventually pull away and win the ball game.
Right. Well, what's an interesting matchup, at least to me, at least until the kickoff, is that Jackson State coming off that loss and Valley coming off a huge win against Pine Bluff, and they're meeting in Itta Bena this weekend. Do you think it might give a little momentum in favor of the Delta Devils?
The thing you got, if you're a Delta Devil coach / player, you can't still be celebrating the Pine Bluff victory after Monday morning at about 6 o'clock, okay? It's fine you celebrate on Sunday. Depends on if they work out or watch film on Sundays, which some schools do. But, you usually have with a 24-hour rule of celebrating. Even if you lose, it's a 24-hour rule. So the thing that you have to hope is that they don't focus on that. The good thing is you playing against an in-state rival, so it's easy for coach to get them guys focused, because they playing against somebody that on paper that they don't like. So it's easy for you to get your guys on the next task if it's somebody that, they've been playing them close but haven't been beating them, or they play them close for a half and then the doors fly off. So I think it's much easier being a Delta Devil coach this week coming off a win, and then you hope the Jackson they still getting told about, man, y'all lost homecoming. They still hearing that on campus, and now they can't focus on Valley coming up. But I think it's going to be maybe good for a half, and depending on the thing is, if you can keep it close for a half, you get your confidence up like that Buster Douglas. Man, I didn't get knocked out in the first 3 rounds. Man, I might could beat this dude. So that's
you just brought back a memory on that one, there, man.
Hey, that's the thing you got to hope for in terms of being a Valley fan. So I think it's going to be interesting, and they playing in Itabena. It might not be such different for Jackson State guys, but I know when we would go up there, man, it just was, you passing by cotton fields and sweet potato farms and the catfish farms. Then you get on campus and, they listening to the blues instead of rap music. It's just a little different environment up there.
Yes,
and the locker room is really, it's almost more like a shed than it is a true locker room. It's not very big. You can't fit all your guys in there. Some guys got to get dressed in the hallway or get taped outside. So it's a whole different dynamic that you have to get used to when you go and play in Itabena.
Yes, sir. Now, your alma mater had, I guess, a weekend off or exhibition game against Lincoln Oaklanders. Now, before we get into that, and we talk all the time about strength of schedule and this, that, and the other. And I can remember a couple of seasons under Simmons when he was at Prairie View, played some schools like Bethune-Cookman, another school out of Florida. I think they shut down now. But anyway,
Florida Memorial.
No, I don't think, was it Florida
Memorial?
No, these dudes, I'm not laughing, but it is funny. Coach, they showed up on the bus already in pads. Like back in high school, Little League, and I was like, wow, what is the purpose of us playing those type games?
You know what? It's twofold. One, I would say for a homecoming game, I don't think most people care who you play. They just want to get a win. The other thing is, sometimes a coach just need a win. And if you look at the different formulas, I had an older coach tell me the best coach is the best schedule. It ain't all about, going out there testing yourself every weekend. Sometimes you just need to play a team that you're going to beat. And that's one philosophy. But sometimes it's just, if you have a gauntlet of teams, October used to be very tough for a month for a lot of schools because you were playing, you played your homecomings, and you may have played 2 or 3 pretty good other schools, and you don't have that break. So sometimes you may say, well, let's bring in somebody that we feel like we can get by. And even in that game on Saturday, Southern ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. And sometimes that's the worst thing that can happen if it's somebody that you far superior to in talent because you lose that focus of what's going on. I remember one year when I was a defensive coordinator at Prairie View, we played Alabama A&M at Alabama A&M. And the very first play of the game, they ran a route that we practiced, I guarantee you, 50 times. And we knew the play. They ran the play and scored an 80-yard touchdown. And Coach Frazier is looking at me like, man, what are you doing, Northern? And I looked at him and my exact words were, Coach, we got them right where we want them. They think it's going to be easy, and they didn't score another point that game because it's the focus that, man, it's going to be easy, and it's hard to keep that attention span focus unless you really have to have a totally different group of guys to stay focused on the task at hand. When you think it's going to be easy, it start off easy, and now you looking in the stands at, oh, look at Miss Prairie View from 1999. Oh, look at her. Look at these cheerleaders back here. Look at the dancing girls. It's hard to keep dudes focused during a game when it start off so easy.
Okay. Because like I said, it can be more detrimental than positive. I know it's about the wins and building confidence of your teams, but to each his own on that. When you look at it, you execute well, and now, if I'm not mistaken, Southern is going to be on the road to take on Bethune.
Yeah, they going to Bethune, playing in the stadium where the Jacksonville Jaguars play.
Okay, and that's going to be an adventure as well. Um, I don't, and I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I just really believe in the uniqueness of our HBCU brand. You play in them cozy stadiums. You know, I have a theory, and I know many might not agree with it, but I think that you should have a base of maybe 10,000 seats where you make it, to me, a hot ticket, and it's easier to feel. And I know we build these, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, everybody was building these large stadiums because they were anticipating 40 and 50,000 people to attend. But that's never really been our DNA unless it was a classic game at a neutral site. But for anything that's going to be on a campus, I think you'd be better off with a 10,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, I think you can get by with that, and I'm not sure how big Bethune actually plays at a city stadium, so it's not on their campus, but I'm not sure how big that stadium is, and it actually may be a one-sided stadium if I'm not mistaken, so that may be why they moved it, or the city of Jacksonville may have, given them a sweetheart deal on to say, hey, you guys come play here. And then Southern was traditionally known as a group of fans that travel well. So Bethune may have been anticipating a big crowd coming with them, but Jacksonville is a good hump all the way to the eastern coast of Florida, so that's a whole different ball game. And Southern not playing as well as it's not like they're going into the game 6-1 or something like that, or undefeated in conference play. So it may come to backfire, but like I said, you don't want to have a 10,000 attended game in a 6,000 seat stadium, so it's not going to look good when you see those things. But like I say, I understand where you're coming from. We're talking about 10 to 15,000 is good, depending on where you are.
Yes, sir. Now, Coach, let me ask you this, and I know you got a strong rapport with majority of the existing coaches in this conference right now and throughout the country, and I know it can be a sensitive area. But when these coaches are feeling the heat from their fan base, and we're all human, what really effect does that have when you further trying to do your job?
Well, I think some of the things you have to think about, one, it can affect your recruiting. So when people are putting negative things out there, whether it's true or false, it can affect recruiting, because once the fans start saying nobody wants to come here and play, it's hard for people to get past that part. But for the most part, you just, as a coach, you keep grinding, but you think reality. You can know that the act is about to come. I just say my situation personally, I had no idea that when we beat Alabama A&M, that was going to be my last time coaching or being a head coach at Prairie View, being honest with you. And we finished with a 500 record that year, but at the same time, we were under APR penalty. So, like I said, now some coaches with 2 or 3 wins, they know that, hey, guys, start getting your resume paper ready. As a head coach, I would tell my guys, if I knew I was going to get fired, hey, man, I have no problem with you putting out feelers on what's going on with other schools. All I'm going to ask you to do is do what you're supposed to do for the guys in your meeting room and for the other guys that you're coaching with. No matter what our record is, do your job here before you find you a job somewhere else. And if you don't do your job here, then I'm going to let it be known. Now, other than that, like I say, I would tell guys, I'm not going to lie for you. I'm not going to lie on you. And that's the same thing I would tell my players, whether it was to the NFL scouts or a potential employee. But you have to do your job at hand. And you can't worry. It's out of your hands anyway. So why worry about it? I just wouldn't want anything that's very untrue and very negative to be said about me. Now, if it's the truth, I can live with that. But I just don't want anything negative said about me that wasn't true.
Right. Now, when you look at it from those particular angles, and I got to ask you the obvious. I already know the answer. Do you miss coaching, and would you ever consider coming back?
Sometimes I do, being honest with you. It just depends on the environment that I'm in. Like when I go to a game that's nicely attended, you got the bands, I might get chills in certain places. Now, some games that I have been to be honest with you, I have not missed it at all. And a lot of times when I go to games, even my son's game, like I go stand away from everybody else or sit away because I don't want to hear people sitting up there criticizing the coaching and the playing. Like I've been to maybe 2 Southern games this year, and I have yet to sit. My wife, we have season tickets to pretty much everything at Southern, but I have yet to sit in those seats because I don't want to hear the fans talking about the coaches and the players. So I just, I know enough police officers I could probably get anywhere I want to on Southern campus. So I just go stand in the corner. I don't go stand on Southern sidelines because I don't want to be a distraction. A lot of people pretty much still know me, so I don't want somebody saying, well, why is he on the sideline, or what is he doing, or are they bringing him back and all that type of stuff. So sometimes I do miss it. I think my daughter misses it more than everybody because she didn't have the chance because of her age at the time that I was at Prairie to enjoy the bus rides, to enjoy running out on the field with the team and all that type of stuff. She wants me to go back into coaching, and I have turned down some coaching opportunities within and outside of the conference. But my son is at an age where I don't feel like it would be right for me to leave him. Being a 16-year-old kid who's taller than his mama, as the only black kid on this baseball team, I don't feel like it's right. It would be right for me to go chase football. That's what I call it, to chase football for my happiness and not make sure my family, because my first responsibility is to Adam and Brooke and my wife, Paula.
You know what, Coach? That's why we love you here, brother. And I know what you mean when you talk about making that sacrifice for your team, because there comes a season, and I remember when my son was transitioning with his athletic career, and I said, well, let me put down some of the things I want to do so I can, be there to support him, because in most cases, they are the only ones that look like us on the team that's involved. And I don't care if it's a sprinkle or two here and there. They need to look around and that they got a support stable too. And I know exactly where you're coming from, and I tip my hat to you on that one, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great job. I know you're a Southern alum, but I hear that Prairie View producing productive people in that statement right there. So I'll tag that one on you just for this segment right here.
Yes, sir. Hey, but you know what? And I think I may have mentioned it before. Now, for a while, I probably was salty with, I would say, some people, but I never fell out of love with the Prairie View A&M University. And I think I mentioned my son went to an architecture camp at Prairie View for a whole week,
right,
and enjoyed himself. And he's in his junior year of high school, and Prairie View is in his top 5 of schools that, and I tell him, look at schools. If you don't play baseball or football in college, where would you like to go to school? And I think because of some of the memories that he had, that's why Prairie View is, I ain't going to say it's in the top 3 for sure, but it's high on the list because of what Prairie View not only provided me and him, but us, but then the fact that he went to camp and nobody know that's Coach Northern's son, and they treated him like, hey, man, this is a place that you belong. So I have to give it to Prairie View for that, because, like I say, sometimes when he goes places, people know that, hey, that's Coach Northern's son, they may treat him a little bit differently or whatever. So, but like I said, I love all HBCUs. There's not one that I don't like. Now, it may be some that I would rather he not go to, but I would never say don't take a look at that school.
Well, you know, when you said something that was so key, and I believe this is just a value point in life. Um, you never really have a problem with a said institution. It might be some key people who are attached to that institution during your time of venturing through there, and it might be an individual or two that puts a little salt, extra salt in your game. You'd be like, I didn't like that taste. You know what I mean? But it's never, as they say, personal. And I developed a deal a long time ago, and I'll share it real quick. And I may have shared it with you before, man. You know, charge to my head, not to my heart. I have sometimes I can't remember. That's why I didn't get the lie, man. But, you know, Q-tip is an item that we're all familiar with, and it is something that we use on a regular basis. And I'll just ask you this question. You ever use a Q-tip, man, and was shocked at what came out of your ears?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, and what you do, you look at it and threw it away, and you moved on and never thought about it again, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, a Q-tip is spelled Q-T-I-P, which is abbreviation for quit taking it personal. When I realized that I don't give people power nor authority over me, you might be in a key seat, but guess what? You can't stop me from my adoration for this institution, that institution, because I tell you something that we've been doing, and it made me think when you said it. A lot of people don't know, but we sponsor home seats at every SWAC team. You understand? I'm not going to the games, but I want somebody to be able to experience that might be in a little less fortunate situation than we are of what it's like to be a part of an HBCU. I'm proud of my HBCU, whether I went to it or not. And I feel like we have a responsibility to expose any and everyone that has a chance or thinking about higher education. And that's part of it, my man. That's part of it. You know, so I don't know how we get on these deep philosophy conversations, but you know, it just let us know that there's more to life than just strictly X's and O's, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, look. Do you have a game of the week, man? We're going to have to wrap this segment up. Do you have a game of the week?
I think the game of the week, I want to say at least for a half or 3/4 is going to be that Jackson and Valley game. I think that's going to be a good one. And also, I know it's not a SWAC game, but I'm going to check out the North Carolina Central versus Morgan game. It's a few guys. It's a few guys on the Morgan State staff that actually. The head coach was at Prairie View the year we won the championship. My office mate, Coach Sewell, is the defensive coordinator at Morgan State. And then the head coach at North Carolina Central, he worked at Grambling. He coached at Southern. Actually, the time I was getting ready to go down there, he worked for Coach Odom. So I'll check that out. I think North Carolina Central is going to win by a good little bit, but I think the Valley game, the Valley Jackson game, is going to be better than most people think.
Oh, I believe that as well, sir. Or are you going to reach out on a limb this week and give us Dixie?
If I had to pick the Valley game, I would say probably 38-21. It'd probably go in a halftime 14-17 or something like that. And then eventually I think Jackson is going to pull away if I had to pick. But like I say, I'm not a gambling man.
No, sir. Neither am I, man. I work too hard to get it, and my wife spend it fast enough for me, so I sure ain't going to give it to nobody else.
Yes, sir.
Look, Coach, you got any closing thoughts and comments this week, sir?
Man, Mike, you know, just thinking back on having the chance to be at home and homecoming is just a situation where we have to take advantage of the things that are in front of us. And while we were driving, my wife and I were talking about, you know, people close to our age range that have passed away. So we talked about not putting things off, thinking, well, I'll do it in a year or two. She was saying, one of the guys that worked with her, kept putting things off, and lo and behold, died at 52 years of age. So, you know, I guess the moral of the story is, if it's something that you want to do that's not going to cause somebody else discomfort, put your family out of whack, go ahead on and do it. So one of the things we was talking about, you know, I got invited to go on a hunting trip to a place I've never been to before. And she was like, well, if there's something that you can do that's not going to throw the family dynamics out of order, then go ahead on and do it. You know, the same thing with her. You know, she's a traveler. I hate flying. But, you know, she wants to go to these places. Hey, I'll sacrifice a 8-hour plane flight if that's something that's going to make you happy. So, you know, just don't put things off, because you never know when that opportunity is going it come back around to you. So just take advantage of the blessings that we have and make the most of those opportunities that we have.
Well, sir, very well put. And there's a term for it called embrace the river.
Yeah.
The river currents are moving so fast, man, that you don't realize how fast it's moving till you get in it. And that's just how life goes. Because although it's been over 30 years since I was on the campus of Prairie View as a student, it still sounds and feels like yesterday. So you never know how much time you got, man, and love those who you can while you can, and just take advantage of every opportunity that you have while you still have the faculties of your mind, body, and soul.
And get the feet flat on the ground first thing in the morning and make the best of that day.
Yes, right. And for my beloved Prairie View, get right, church, and let's go home. He is Coach Northern with our weekly conversation here. I am Dr. Mike Prince, radio guy of the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Don't forget to follow me on X at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.